All right. Before we get into demo 2, I want to address a couple things here. Let's see. Was this able to stay? So, okay, firstly, just these are some things that popped up as I was wandering around and talking to you all. So, in the Sriracha, this is where the demo 2 will be in the same file. I also wanted you all to see how I built this bottle and take a look at it. You'll notice, for example, that the cap is in here, right? This is part of the master. So for example, and demo 2 will kind of get at this, so I guess maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. But this is how I advise you all to set up your master is with the cap in there. And you'll notice if I create a new sketch on the front plane, and if I simply copy my master, it brings everything in. But you can go ahead and just delete parts of this. You don't, the revolve doesn't have to be identical to your master. So even though it brought the cap with it, and like even like this line down here, reminder, there's the trim tool. It looks like the scissors here. And you can bring it up with T for trim. For what it's worth, there are different, when you click on the trim tool, you'll notice there's these different options here. You want to go trim to closest. I don't know if this carried over with my settings, but the trim to closest I find works the best. Simply what it does is this whole line here, it'll cut to the next vertice, or the next dot. So that's how you can get rid of lines like this. So if your master is complicated, you can copy it over and just kind of delete out what you don't need. Another like misconception that I want to kind of solve right now that this just came up. So if we look at our first revolve here, this is the bottle. If I go ahead and edit my master here, and like I just add a random line, because this line isn't copied, it's not going to ruin our revolve. So I just added this blue line. I'll exit out of here. Your revolve is still as is, untouched. So it is okay to like make and edit changes to your master. Again, where the master is useful is if you're changing volume. You can go down here, type in whatever, like 2 inches to make it wider. Exit out of this, and then the revolve should rebuild because it's attached to it. So whatever the revolve copies from the existing master, if that changes in the existing master, it will come across. Now, yeah, the only thing that doesn't come across is I was mistaken before about replace entities. This replace feature, where is it now? If I go into the master, I thought that this would come across through convert entities, but it doesn't. Where this replace entity is helpful is it only works in the feature sketch here. And sometimes like it turns out like this will be more important later in class. So I'll come back to this. But for example, if you have an edge created by a straight line and you apply a fillet to that, if you were to delete that straight line and put a curve in there, that edge would get lost. If you use replace entities, that edge will be remembered for the feature. If that's confusing, don't worry about it. It will matter more in the later projects. I was mistaken. I thought it carried through convert entities, and it does not, which is unfortunate. Okay, are there any questions on editing a master or like what should be in there or what shouldn't? Okay, like I said, I just want to build on Daisy's question before about tying things to the master. So this is a brand new sketch again. This is, again, how I'm recommending that you all, if you have a groove at the bottom, how to put it into your bottle. And again, it's with offset here. Now, this is, oh, sorry, actually, I want to correct what I said before. It's perfectly acceptable to go with offset, okay? So this is how I showed you all in the first demo. But in talking with some of you, it didn't come up, but it popped up in my head that actually I kind of steered you wrong. There's a better way to do this. And here I just want to show you why there's a better way to do this. So I offset this. I told it to be a certain distance. Guess what? If you go back in now and you change the volume to your master here, if I change this to 2, guess what happens? Now the cut happens way back here, right? That's a problem. We don't want that to happen, okay? So this is where Daisy's question was really good about the master. And here, this is something that would be good to put in the master. It would be good to put something in here that looks like It can be a line, simply how far do you want that cut to start? So again, I'm adding it to this outside wall. This can be for construction. The only diameter that, or the only dimension that matters is how far from this outside wall is. So let's say we want it to be 0.4 always from the outside. You'll notice it's a blue line. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is this point here. So I'm going to exit out of this. And now with this cut, actually, so sorry. So now we want this cut to correspond to this point. Now, here's maybe where it's a bit confusing, because up until this point, we've had the cut coming towards us. So in thinking about this now, apologies. I probably should have made this part of the demo. So this front plane is probably better. So I'm editing this sketch. I want it to be based on this point. The point is to the right of the sketch. So it's actually better that this sketch is on the right plane. So I'm going to simply click on the sketch, say Edit Plane. We'll see if this rebuilds. It may not be happy with us. So we're changing from the front plane to the right plane here. And I'm going to click the checkbox. OK, it rebuilds. Sometimes SolidWorks is friendly like that. So in this extrude cut here, we're simply going to go ahead and edit. And instead of having this be an offset, I'm going to say from vertex, from point. And I'm going to select this vertex here. And now you'll notice that the extrude cut starts from that point. So now you'll notice if I now need to go in here and double my volume and make this 2 inches, this line is going to move with the 2 inches. And now when I exit out, that snaps and starts where we want it. So again, it's all about setting up your Jenga tower in an intelligent way so that it rebuilds for you. Now, it's very possible if the first way made more sense to you, that would be okay. You would just have to manually go in and change that offset based on the width of your bottle. But I'm assuming you'd all rather do less work. So if you set it up from a considered way from the start, it will save you time. And clearly, like in my sort of stumbling through this today, it's not always clear right off the bat. Sometimes you like do it, you see something's wrong, you have to go in and make changes. So in conclusion, my advice to all of you, if you have grooves on the bottom, set a point offset from your widest part of your bottle. Make your cut on the right plane. And then when it comes to making the cut in your settings, make sure that the starting point is the vertex, and select that point from your sketch. All right, so second demo now. So if I go back to this, and we'll just look at it really quickly. This is showing us how to, if you have a cap with a loop, or maybe your bottle has some features that are cut or extruded in a single direction, this demo will show us all how to do that. So again, I invite you to follow along if you can. If you'd rather watch and do this later, that's okay too. I'm not necessarily going to collect it, but I think it's important just for keeping up with the class and learning these features. Extrude and extrude cut are incredibly important. And this one does get into fillet. So you can start by hiding the green cap because we're going to build a new one. So if you ever need to hide a feature on your bottle, you can simply right-click on this and click on the eyeball, and that will hide it. I might also hide the initial master here, which again you can do by right-clicking on this and clicking the eyeball. And now we're left with demo2 and demo2 side. These are our new masters that we want to use. So we're going to create a new front plane sketch by selecting the front plane. For Mac users, my hotkeys are Option plus the letter. The Option is the equivalent to Alt. So if you need to create a new sketch, it's Option S or Alt S on my PC. And then again, Option N or Alt N, and it will turn the page to be perpendicular to your vantage point. What it asks you to do is select Demo2 and either press C for convert or simply find convert entities up here and copy it over. Now you'll notice this copies everything. We don't need this inner sketch at the moment. So you can simply click and drag, I believe, or you can select it individually. Let's see, is there? Yeah, so I believe this is similar to Illustrator. If I click and drag from the top right to the bottom left, anything that's in the box will be selected, including if it's partially in the box. If you click and drag from the top left to the right, it will only select anything that is completely in the box. So in this case, any lines that go outside of the box will not be selected. That's one quick way to select this stuff and simply hit delete. Another quick way to select in SOLIDWORKS is to right-click, and you can say select chain, and that means if the line ends and another feature starts, it'll select that chain. It does not select this line because it is not part of the chain. These vertices are on the line. It's not end-to-end, so it only selects features that are end-to-end, and we can go ahead and hit delete. The next thing it has you do is when you're still in the sketch feature is to go ahead and hit revolve. It asks you what's the center of rotation. You simply select this line. And here, this is where it's incredibly important. So this is, again, creating a new cap. You do not want to merge it with the bottle, so you simply check this box. Again, if you accidentally forget to check the box and it turns red, you can simply go back, edit it, and uncheck the box. All right. The next thing that you need to do is cut the loop out of this. So you're going to create another new front plane sketch. So select the front plane, Alt-S to create a new sketch, and Alt-N so we look at it. In the same way that we selected before, so you can again select demo2 front and copy it, or you can also use that trick I showed you where you can right-click on this and say select chain, so you're selecting just the sketch you want, and say see or convert entities. And now you simply have just what you want. Now obviously this is only half of the loop, we want the other half. So I already showed this in the previous demo, unplanned, but here it is formally, is if you create a new line here and set this to be for construction, you can select all of these and click on mirror entities. But I want to show you what it looks like if you click on it without selecting anything. So here it will ask you what entities you want to mirror. Once again, you can just simply click one at a time. You want the line in 2 arcs. What do you want to mirror it about? You can select this, and it flips it. You want copy checked. I believe if it's unchecked, it gets rid of it will delete these lines, but you want it checked because you want both. And so now you have what's on the left and the right. This is a good way to copy something if you're doing something symmetrically in a sketch. It has happened in the past that students have gotten confused about mirror entities because there is a mirror feature. It's right here. It's called mirror. So if for some reason your tabs get mixed up at the top and you're in the sketch, I've had students ask me, why is it grayed out? It's because you're currently in a sketch. This is a feature mirror. It's not a sketch mirror. So you want to make sure that it's mirror entities and that you're on the sketch tab. Once you have that, you want to go back to features and simply do extrude cut. This is similar to extrude before. So where does it start? How long is it? What does it affect? Okay. You can kind of ignore these in the middle for now. Sketch plane is a great place for it to start. Here, you could either do mid plane and manually set it. But again, if for some reason your cap grows, which it shouldn't, really through all both is the best setting here. Now, here it is important that you want to select just the gray cap. There's a chance that, oh no, never mind, it doesn't go into the red. But still, again, it's always better to say exactly what you want it to go through. You select this cap and go ahead and click the check mark. And there you have it. You should have a loop through your... Okay, so the way that we just cut straight through here, we're going to do the exact same thing by cutting on the side. And this is where we have our first sort of like side loop feature, or side cut, or sorry, side master sketch. So now we're going to take our right plane and create a new sketch on it with Alt-S, and then again Alt-N that we look at it. You select demo2 side and click on C or convert entities. Now let's look at this. You'll notice that, and I don't know what happened here, but you'll notice that the line doesn't go all the way through. It should. If you ever notice that you're trying to create a sketch to cut through it, you can always click and drag on this. So this is coming from that first entity. I don't know if there's a chance I accidentally changed a dimension. But if you notice your line, and this, if you're ever in this situation, this is the line that's copied. You can always click on either of these points and drag them to be longer if you want. Now that means the arc is still attached to it, but now the endpoints have broken that relationship. So if you're in the same situation as me and for some reason your line stops short, just click on this and drag it forwards. Now we want to cut this away, so we want to close our shape. I'm just going to do that as simply as I can, which I guess technically the simplest way would be to go straight, but obviously then it leaves part of that cap. So I'm just going to go straight out and straight down. And now we have our closed shape. Now, of course, we're cutting on both sides. So I would create a line in the middle on the origin, set it to be for construction. If you select both of these and click on mirror entities, it will flip that over. And it's the exact same thing as we just did before. You go to extrude cut and you say through all both. Again, down here, you want to make sure it's just going through the gray cap. And then select that. And now here we have our cap with a loop. The final thing that it asks, or that the demo goes through, is fillets. So be aware, this was helped out one student, is there is a chamfer feature. A chamfer is like a fillet, but it's like a hard edge as opposed to like a tangent curve. So just be aware that that exists, it's down there. When you click on fillet, again, there's a lot of options here. For the most part, and especially for this project, the default is good enough. It's this fillet type. It's a, I guess they're calling it a constant size fillet. In my head, this is like an edge fillet. It's like you select edges and it makes that edge soft, okay? So simply here, you selected an edge. You can see that it follows all the tangencies of that edge and runs it around. This command asks you to select multiple edges. So part of your grade is on efficiency in your tree. If you want to have different size fillets, then you can have a different fillet command. If the fillet command is all the same, I would select multiple edges in that one fillet. So what do I mean? This is a single fillet command. I'm going to click check, and you'll see here in the tree, apologies that my tree is long like this. You'll see there's a single fillet here. If when I'm grading you, I see something that looks like this, followed by a second fillet here, followed by a second fillet here, I'll take off points for this. And just to show you my tree, let's let this black box disappear. Here's 3 fillets for these 3 edges. Just remember you can select multiple edges with a fillet. So just be efficient when you can. Where I won't take off points is if for some reason you want to have different size fillets. So for example, you might want to select these 2 edges and make them a little bit bigger because it's the top. And then you might want to use this fillet here and make it a little bit tighter because it's at the inside. That's where it's okay. Okay, sorry, there's a bit of tangent there in terms of how to select edges and what this is for. Let me delete these fillets out to continue talking through the fillet types that's listed on the sheet. Oops, no, go away, not linear pattern. So that's the default. Here, this one is a variable fillet, so you can go from one size to another. It can be really like fussy. So for example, you could, let's see if we can get this here. We could set this to be like 0.01 and set this to be 0.1. Let's see if this works. And then select this other edge here. And again, make this 0.01. It has to correspond to the other one on the other side in order to work. And even then, it may not. So variable fillet, it gives you a fillet that goes from small to large. It's kind of fussy. At this stage, I advise you avoid it. It might be more useful in project 2. It's good to be aware it exists. It just needs to obey certain rules. So it has it on the start and stop on this edge. Again, where it stops, the 0.01, it works better if it corresponds. So the 0.01 and the 0.01 match, the 0.1 and the 0.1 match on this end. That's what a variable fillet is. A face fillet is like an edge fillet. It's a little bit more robust. So in this instance, you select this face and you select this face. And it has the same effect as the first one. It just tends to power through more complex shapes. So sometimes if your first edge isn't working, that's useful to know. Full round, you'll probably use it the least. I don't know, some people like it. It's as advertised. You select 3 faces. I don't know if this is going to work. It may not. Yeah, it's not going to. But what it tends to do is it gives you a full round fillet across something. If I ever see an opportunity where this makes sense, I'll bring it up. But again, for now, you can kind of ignore it. A couple notes on fillets here. Actually, yeah, sorry, for what it's worth, I was mentioning edges. It is possible to select faces. So I could select this face and it'll put a fillet on both sides. Fillets have a limit in size, right? So if I hit 0.1, it fails. As I bring this down, let's see how high we can get with this fillet here. So okay, at 0.09, do you see how close this line is getting? At 0.1, that line overlaps, and that's why the fillet fails, and it won't give it to you. So an unfortunate SolidWorks game is what's the biggest fillet I can get on here. A lot of hours and hair is lost to trying to figure out fillets on complex models. Eventually, I do want to see fillets on everything for this first project. Get it where it's logical. You're totally welcome to fillet edges like this if you want. Kind of my rule of thumb is that a fillet is a finishing feature, it's not a design feature. So that means that this is technically part of the design of the sriracha bottle. So it's probably better to not do this as a fillet. However, this end here of this like neck transfer ring, it's just a little feature, like this could be filleted, right? So again, you want it to be set to something small so it actually works. Oh, oops, I already have a fillet on the top. Oh, okay, so that's worth mentioning too. If you have a fillet on this top body, you cannot fillet this body. So that's another reason why you would have multiple fillets. So you cannot apply a fillet to both the cap and the bottle if they're disconnected. So if I click away from here, I can now select this and set this to be like something incredibly small. So like for your bottle, it makes sense to me to fillet features like this that are not a design feature, it's just a finishing feature. Does that distinction? Okay, last but not least, I noticed some of you in your designs of your bottles had unique like emblems. Maybe it was related to like the Batman logo or something else. I just want to show you a new tool that if you want to add something to the design of your bottle that you could use for this project. So I will use the Batman bottle as an example. I'm going to create a sketch on this front plane. Whoops. So select the front plane, Alt S. Doesn't like me. What's going on? There we go. So let's say you want to put an emblem on here or something. Why did I pick the Batman logo? I'm just going to make it up. So here is my center. I have no idea what this looks like. Yeah, something like that. So this is your emblem. Here you might want to mirror it again, so select all that, mirror entities. So this is the new feature I want to show you, I believe. Okay, it's buried, unfortunately. It's under here, under curves, and it's called split line. If you can't find it, you can always go up here and type in split line, and it should come up. Split line, not split. If you select this, if you're in a sketch, it'll give you the current sketch. Here what you do is you simply select the face that you want that to appear on, and you can click the checkbox, and now you'll notice it's in this black line on here. So now when you go to do your drawing, that Batman logo will appear. I think the other example I saw is someone had a Pokeball motif, which, you know, if you wanted to do that, might look something very roughly. If I just mock this in and I just kind of trim this all out, you can do the exact same thing. So again, remember it's under features, curves, drop this down, split line. What face do you want your sketch to be cut onto? Select this. And there you have kind of a Pokeball. You could now extrude like the little Pokeball button off of this face. So if any of you have like design features that relate to whatever object, I totally will accept this as like kind of an embellishment if that's something you'd like to do. Just be aware that it puts it on both sides. Doesn't bother me. If for some reason that bothers you, you want to create a split line down the middle first. So I guess if I just show that real quick, you can always take the front plane. Once again, say split line. So in this case, it's always going to default to a projection, but you can always do an intersection. So where the front plane intersects this, you now have two faces here. If we want our Batman logo only on the front, now we can select just that front face. And because it's been split, now it's only on the front face. But I wouldn't get that. Try not to get that worried about your model. Yeah, I mean, if you want to do colors, that's great. So for example, it's not a requirement. I guess for some of you, I think color is important to your designs. So if you want to print out your 3 design bottles in color, that's cool. Let's talk about that real quick. So if you want this Batman logo to be in a color, you can simply select this face and right click on it. Again, if you find the beach ball and drop this down, in this instance, you want just the face to change color. So you want to select face here. And again, it'll bring this up. You can select whatever color you want. Now, when you go to create your drawing, you go File, New, Drawing. Sheet size, 11 inches wide by 8.5 inches tall. Because again, for your redesign, it doesn't have to be full scale. You can change your scale here by use custom scale. So let's try 1 to 2, see how that looks. Now it's going to default to this line work. If you select this and find the display style, if you select this one, it'll give it to you in color. So I leave it up to you if you want. If color is important, it's definitely not a requirement. But if it helps you communicate your design and adds to your story as you present your bottle, that's cool. You can do that. Okay, so what is due Monday? Let's zoom in here. So you have 2 bottles, right? So if your existing bottle, this is what you built for this previous Monday's class. So for me, my example was the Sriracha bottle. Now what you need to do, again, is you need to check the volume of so some of you need to build this cap probably still, based on today. Everyone does. Once you have your cap built, remember, hopefully your origin is here. You want to take this bottom bottle and you want to make a double size, checking volume, and you want to make a baby size, checking volume. And again, ideally you keep the proportions somewhat similar. Each of these are a solid part file, okay? So each of these are their own file. You got 3 files here. What you're going to do with each of these files is you're going to upload them to Box. So I think there was a question during the break. You're not building these different sizes in the same part. Once you have this built, you should, if you built this properly, you should be able to get to these 2 relatively easily, just by changing height and width. That's the hope, if you approach it right. And then again, that's how this project is designed, is that it's set up to force you in this direction so that if you build your Jenga tower in a smart way, you can get 2 more models with hopefully not a lot of stress. Again, my advice is make sure you get this main bottle dialed in before you build these ones. You don't want to build one of these and then go back and edit this, because then your volume might change and then your grade might change. So you want to be as close to accurate there as you can. Now all of these 3 files go onto Box, online, and you're good. Now from these, this is the only one that you want to print out into a physical sheet of paper. Right, I don't know how to make this look like a physical sheet of paper. And you want this to be full scale, 1:1. Don't forget you want to bring your bottle in as well. So that we can verify the accuracy. Most of you, I would say 90% of you were close. Some of you were a bit off, so just try and get this to fit. Reminder that you don't need a top view or a bottom view, but I do want this dimension on here. That's it, just 1 dimension. So this constitutes the existing bottle. So these 3 SolidWorks files go onto Box. You bring in a physical sketch. I don't need the physical sketch on Box. I don't need the drawing file on Box. Any questions on this one? Okay. Now you have your brand new design bottle that you sketched today. That's this one here. I called it the fantasy bottle. This one ends up looking like whatever you want. Obviously, it's probably not going to be this complex. This is my lame attempt at SpongeBob SquarePants. Whatever it ends up being, you want to build that in SolidWorks. And again, this is also going to be a SolidWorks part file. You are then going to take your SpongeBob bottle and make a larger size and a baby size, half size. And again, these are all SolidWorks files. And these also, all three of these also go on Box. So the same exercise you did up here, you do with the new one as well. So this is a total of 6 SolidWorks files going on Box. Is that clear? I want these on Box by 12 noon on Monday. Again, please don't be late. I'm going to say this once, or I guess again. For each 10 minutes late, I'm going to take off 10%. Don't make me do that. I don't like to do it, but I will. And again, it's all to just get you in the habit of being on time and learning how to be on time for my class. And I take the critique seriously, and because this is a class with a digital component, you have to turn those in ahead of time, and I ask for it an hour before class. So please don't do that. If you're the kind of person where things tend to end up being late, just try and get it uploaded by like 11:45, 11:30. Any last minute fussing you're doing, it's not going to be worth the 10% you're going to lose. Is that clear? Okay. Now this one also has a drawing component. This one, all three also get placed on a sheet of paper. This does not need to be full scale, but it is all 3 SpongeBob bottles next to each other. The scale doesn't matter. You don't need dimensions on this. This is purely to just judge, as a class, did the proportion stay? Is the fidelity true through the 3? So it's a total of 6 CAD files and 2 printouts, plus your physical bottle. Is that clear? All right. It's a good question. I'm going to show you how I'm going to grade this, okay? When I get to your bottles, when I'm grading this, I will open your starting middle bottle for both the copy and the new design. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click Alt-L, and I'm going to check the volume of just the bottle. I'm going to write this number down, 30.4473. If you want to round up, you can. You could say like 30.45. Again, if you want to like, this is not a requirement, but if you want to agree with me, I give you all permission to, when you have your middle volume picked, you can simply send me an email and say, existing bottle, 30.45 cubic inches, new bottle, 30 point whatever cubic inches. If when I'm grading that number is off, see, this is the problem if we set this up. We can agree to this. If you send me that number, now let me think carefully about this. If you send me that email, I am going to expect that that number is going to be incredibly close to your middle bottle. If for some reason it's off, I will take points off your middle bottle. To answer your question as directly as I can, when I grade this, I'm going to look at the bottle. I'm going to look at 30.45, and I'm just simply going to double that. So 30.45 times 2 is 60.90. So I will probably round here. The reason why it doesn't matter anything beyond the second 4 is if we go back and look at this, it has to be within plus or minus 0.05 cubic inches. So that's a factor of 0.1 that it can vary. So as long as you're within that, you will get full points. As long as you are within 0.5, so I'll write this in here. I already said this and I made a note in my syllabus. So if you want full points, you have to be within this. As long as you are plus or minus 0.5 inches, which I think is incredibly generous, you will only lose 0.1 points on that. Which, okay, yeah, it sucks because you lose a point, but in the grand scheme of things, you can do the math. That's a very small percentage. Now, if you are out of this, you will probably lose, I think, 0.25 points. Maybe more. It might be 0.5. Don't hold me to that. just at the very least try to be within 0.5. Does that answer your question? So it is a bit of a round. You can round it to a nice number. Try and be within 0.05. If not, it's going to be, you're going to lose 0.1 points. And now again, you'll only lose these points on you can only lose volume points on these bottles here. On these ones, because you won't lose volume points on these ones. Because that's what I'm basing it off of. Again, I give you all permission to email me what you perceive your volume to be if you want, but then it better match, whatever number you send me should match your middle volume. If I can't figure out how you got that number, it mismatches, then I reserve the right to take off points for that. Cool. Any questions on anything else? So yes, please have everything uploaded by 12 noon on Monday. The way that the critique is going to go is pin up work and we'll look at it. I don't necessarily intend to get into SOLIDWORKS. I will give you SOLIDWORKS feedback when I give you back your grades. I will probably write your SOLIDWORKS feedback on your printouts is what I intend to do at this time. I may change that. And then a reminder that a week from today, there is no class.